Chapter 20. No typical debtor. Debtors are all different. They come from all walks of life and all levels of society. Don't think it's always the lower class, down and out person who has their vehicle repoed. You never know when circumstances change and the financial situation becomes unmanageable. I had to repo all makes and models of automobiles, trucks, jet skis, boats, motorcycles, all kinds of stuff. I took a Mercedes from a well-known realtor in Huntsville years ago. I took it from his office parking lot right in front of his building. He got the vehicle back the same day. It was an oversight on the part of someone in his office somewhere. I picked up a red Taurus in Tupelo, Mississippi one day. I pulled it out onto the road and went back and knocked on the door. I was going to let the lady get her personal property and get the keys from her. The debtor was very pregnant and she was home alone. She was just beginning to have labor pains and she had been trying to figure out how to get to the hospital. She was down on her luck with no cell phone. There were no neighbors at home, and I offered to take her to the hospital if she promised not to download that baby in my truck. Well, she promised to do the best she could. I helped her out to the truck and we headed toward the North Mississippi Medical Center in Tupelo. She used my cell phone and called someone to meet her there at the emergency room. The pains were getting closer, but we made it to the hospital safely. No baby yet, and she thanked me for the ride, and the last time I saw her, they were wheeling her into the hospital. I've had people jump in the back of my truck as I was driving out of the driveway with their vehicle. One guy in Gulf Shores, Alabama, jumped into the back of my truck, climbed all the way up over the stuff in the back of my truck and got to the cab, and he leaned around and he goes, "What in the blankety blank do you think you're doing?" Having already towed the collateral off private property, I could stop and talk to the guy. I explained to him why I'd come to get his vehicle, and he was late on his payments, and he met me at the finance company the first thing the next morning, caught his payments up, and got his truck back. Sometimes it can be rather sad. I located an old Oldsmobile station wagon in an apartment complex parking lot off of Triana Boulevard in Huntsville. It was the vehicle I was looking for, and it was packed. It had garbage bags full of stuff in there, and a couple of boxes in it. It had a lot of stuff in it. And I wanted to let the debtor get the personal property out and get the keys to it, so I knocked on the apartment door. An old man came to the door, and I told him who I was and asked for the debtor. He was the debtor. He had signed for the car. He had signed for his son to get the car, and the son was supposed to be paying for it, but the son had not kept up the payments, and Dad didn't know where his son was living, didn't know where he was. And I offered to help him clean the car out, but he told me he wasn't physically able to help, so I ended up getting everything out and brought it to him. He gave me the keys while we were standing in the doorway, and his grandson came up and stood beside him, and he looked up at Granddad and he said, "Papa, where's he going with our car?" Man, that cut deep. I felt sorry for him. I told the little guy that I was going to take it and fix it. I don't know whether the little tyke believed me or not, or understood what was going on, but I really felt bad about taking that car. Not bad enough to leave it, but I felt, bad about taking it. We had to do a personal property inventory on everything, then the repossessed vehicle. You had to list everything that was in the vehicle. You faxed a copy of that list to the home office, and they sent a certified letter with a copy of the property list to the best address they had on the debtor. The debtor got the list and instructions on picking up their property. They had to make an appointment to pick up their property from my storage facility, either in South Huntsville or later on down in Faulkville, Alabama, because there's no office there, and so nobody's going to be there on a daily basis. We just set it up to meet them. Legally, we are required to hold the property for, I think, 30 days, but and then donate it somewhere. But we always gave the debtor 90 days to come and get their property. Now, a debtor who's angry or resentful toward the finance company or with the repo man for taking his vehicle, he might try to cause you problems when he comes to get his property. I found the yellow Mustang in Decatur. It was in a workplace parking lot. I mean, this was the given workplace for the guy. And it was a little yellow Mustang, and the windows were rolled down, and the guy's inside at work, and I go to the parking lot. I parked on the street. I walked in there, checking the parking lot, the gravel parking lot, and the keys were in the ignition. The windows are rolled down, the keys in the ignition. So I just took the keys and I walked down, got in my truck, drove it about a block down the road, put the lift down, and then I walked back up and got in the Mustang and drove it up there and hooked it up and took it to my lot in Huntsville. A day or two later, the debtor met me at the storage lot to pick up his property. It was just one big box, and he paid me for the box. We weren't allowed to. We couldn't charge for storage, but we charged like $5 a box for the box itself. And so, he comes over and he gets the box and he sets it down. And he starts looking through the box, and after a minute, he looks over at me and goes, "Where's my money?" I said, "What money?" He said, "Well, I just got paid and I just cashed my paycheck that day when you picked my car up, and I left my money. I cashed it and I left it in the console of the car." This is the car that had both windows rolled down, the key in the ignition, and now he wants me to believe that he left a wad of cash in the console, and he's going to call the police and press charges against me for taking his money. I just laughed. I told him, I said, "You know it wasn't in there, and I know it wasn't in there, but if you want to call the police, go right ahead." And he just shrugged and got his stuff and got in his car and left. But, there's really no typical debtor. I've had all kinds, and so, you treat them all with respect if you can.